Get out. Today. The landlord's voice sliced through the quiet hallway, echoing off the peeling walls. Boxes still half-packed, the Johnson family stood frozen, their children clutching worn backpacks as neighbors peeked from cracked doors. He smirked, waving the eviction notice like a victory flag, certain they had nowhere to go. But what he didn't know was that in just a few weeks, the power on this street would shift forever. Would you stay silent or fight back? Tell us in the comments. Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. The Johnsons had lived on Maple Street for nearly a decade, a small brick duplex that smelled of Sunday dinners and fresh laundry. Marcus, a steady warehouse supervisor, started each morning before sunrise, while his wife Lena ran a quiet home daycare that kept neighborhood kids safe after school. Their two children, Mia and Caleb, rode bikes through the cracked sidewalks, their laughter echoing like a heartbeat of the block. Life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, built with long hours, careful savings, and a belief that hard work kept roofs secure. Summer drifted in heavy and slow, the kind of humid heat that curled paint from porch rails. Rent had never been late. Repairs were done by Marcus himself when the landlord ignored requests. They knew every neighbor by name. Then, out of nowhere, a letter slid under the door, cold, final, and unsigned. An eviction notice. No explanation, just 30 days to leave. Lena read it twice, her chest tightening. They had paid on time, kept the house spotless, followed every rule. Still, the message was clear. They were no longer wanted. The landlord, a man who rarely showed his face, had finally spoken, and there was no kindness in his words. Marcus tried to stay calm, but the children sensed the storm. Neighbors whispered about new investors, higher rents, a push to clean up the block. The Johnsons weren't just tenants. They were targets of a quiet but unmistakable purge. What would you do if someone decided you didn't belong in the home you built with your own hands? The clock started ticking the moment the notice hit their floor. 30 days. Marcus called, pleaded, even offered extra rent. The landlord never answered. Instead, strangers began showing up, sharp suits, clipboards, cameras clicking like insects. They measured fences, pointed at gutters, spoke in low voices about redevelopment. Each visit tightened the knot in Marcus's chest. Lena searched for apartments, but rents had doubled overnight. Listings vanished within hours. Every call ended the same. Sorry, already taken. It felt deliberate, like doors were closing before they even reached them. One evening, as the children slept, the sound of hammering broke the night. Marcus stepped outside to find workers boarding up the vacant house next door. The landlord stood in the shadows, arms crossed, eyes cold. "You're next," he said flatly before walking away. The neighbors noticed. Mrs. Rivera across the street whispered about cash offers to longtime residents, the kind you can't refuse if you're desperate. Families were leaving, one by one. Maple Street was being erased. Lena's daycare parents began to worry. Some pulled their children, afraid of instability. Their income shrank, bills grew. Marcus worked overtime until his body ached, but the math never worked. Then a thin envelope arrived from the bank. The landlord had filed to speed the eviction. Court in 2 weeks. The message was clear. No mercy. But as the pressure mounted, Marcus found something unexpected. Neighbors, those who remained, gathered on porches, trading stories of harassment, sudden hikes, mysterious code violations. They weren't alone. This wasn't random. It was a plan. Night after night, the Johnsons sat at the kitchen table, papers spread like battle maps. If the landlord wanted a war, maybe they'd give him one. Would you fight for the block you called home, even when the odds felt impossible? Court day arrived with a sky the color of slate. Rain slicked the courthouse steps as Marcus and Lena walked past a line of reporters drawn by whispers of a neighborhood takeover. Inside, the landlord sat smugly at the plaintiff's table, his attorney stacking papers like weapons. He didn't glance their way. The hearing moved fast, too fast. The landlord's lawyer rattled off accusations of late payments and false code violations. Marcus produced receipts, photos, letters, but the judge barely looked up. Each gavel strike felt like a door slamming. When the verdict landed, Eviction granted. The landlord's smirk widened. Outside, cameras flashed. Neighbors huddled beneath umbrellas, their faces pale with shared fear. The Johnsons had lost their home. Yet, beneath the weight of defeat, Marcus felt something ignite. 2 nights later, he met with a small coalition forming in a church basement. Tenants, activists, a quiet real estate investor with deep pockets and a deeper sense of justice. They spoke of pooled resources, legal loopholes, and a plan bold enough to shift the balance. Weeks blurred into strategy. Paperwork filed. Calls made. Offers drafted while the landlord celebrated his victory, never noticing the storm gathering behind him. Then, on a crisp morning, the same courthouse echoed with a new sound, the closing bell of a property sale. One by one, deeds were signed. Every empty house, every boarded porch on Maple Street. Marcus and Lena held the final contract with trembling hands. The entire block was theirs. The landlord arrived too late. Confusion etched into his face as he realized the neighborhood he tried to erase now belonged to the very people he cast aside. What do you think happened next? Would he fight back or vanish for good? Share your guess before you see the ending. The landlord's threat collapsed like a house of cards. Overnight, the power on Maple Street shifted. Marcus and Lena stood on their porch, now their porch, watching neighbors return, smiling through tears as they learned the truth. The Johnsons hadn't just bought their own home. With the coalition's help, they'd purchased every vacant lot, every boarded house, every forgotten corner of the block. Workers tore down the "for sale" signs the landlord had planted like trophies. Fresh paint brightened door frames. Gardens sprouted where weeds once grew. The man who tried to erase them slipped away without a word, his empire gone before the ink on his eviction papers even dried. For the Johnsons, it wasn't just about winning. It was about reclaiming dignity, for themselves and for everyone told they didn't belong. Children played in streets once marked for demolition. The daycare filled again. The laughter returned, stronger than before. But the lesson lingered. This victory wasn't luck. It was unity, courage, and the refusal to accept silent injustice. Across the city, other neighborhoods watched and learned. How many more streets must be stolen before more families fight back? How many more landlords will underestimate the people they try to push aside? Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.